Sniper Elite is a franchise that lets you do a lot of fun things. You can carefully set up long shots in stealth with your sniper rifle, carefully infiltrate bases by distracting enemies, and you can bongs Nazis on the head with rocks over and over again that don't really do anything but be funny. And the best part about the series? Almost all of it is on the Switch, and if Rebellion does their usual thing, we'll probably see Sniper Elite 5 on the Switch next year. But we're not talking about 5, we are talking about the one that came before. A request and pretty much the only Rebellion game on the Switch that I haven't covered yet. Here is my review of Sniper Elite 4 for the Nintendo Switch. When it comes to story, 4 takes place in 1943, 1 year after the events of Sniper Elite 3, but 2 years before the events of V2. American sniper Carl Fairburn is sent to Italy when rumors appear of a new type of computer-guided missile that's being developed by the Nazis. A type of smart missile that would give them an overwhelming advantage in the war. Carl must then work with the partisan resistance to find out what he can about this new weapon, where it's being made, and how to put a stop to it. Overall, the plot of 4 is good. They added a lot more story, and by that I mean it has actual story and 3D cutscenes outside of Carl's little summary scenes at the beginning of each mission. You have a bunch of character NPCs you interact with, and it tries for a pretty shocking moment towards the finale. Not sure I'd call it award-winning, with some of the supporting roles definitely not having the best voice acting out there for what they were trying to portray, but it's a step forward. When it comes to gameplay, 4 is a third-person shooter with heavy emphasis on stealth and sniping. As you trek through each area, you'll be hiding in foliage, setting up shots, and infiltrating bases to complete your objectives. Now with the Switch version, not much here is different from the other platforms. We don't have DLC built in like in 3, but the Switch does sport the same excellent motion controls for aiming that are in Rebellion's other ports. With game modes, you have single player and co-op for the main story or campaign, and this goes for both local and online. There are also multiplayer maps you can download off the eShop for free, and some other modes for fighting off waves of enemies as well, though the largest chunk of the game will be the campaign. Speaking of, you go into campaigns by selecting missions and then loadouts. While you don't have much at first, unless you buy the DLC, you can choose your rifle, pistol, and sub-weapon for each mission along with items you want to have with you, like medical kits, grenades, or extra bags of suppressor ammo. There's actually a lot of detail in loadouts, from these supporting items that you can take with you and a bunch of the upgrades you get later on. As you finish missions and complete certain objectives and achievements, you'll gain experience and increase your rank. This will give you tokens to be able to buy new weapons and items, but every 5 ranks you get support skills as well that you can equip to give you a lot more buffs and just make the game easier. When you go into the missions, you will see that Rebellion has once again made things bigger and better. Sniper Elite 3 offered larger areas than V2, and 4 increases the scope of the maps by an even larger amount. While 3 did kind of have the open world-ish stuff where you had large areas to explore, 4 gives you a do things in whatever order you want flavor to it. You got a bunch of main and side objectives that you can do, and you can do them in any order you want. In fact, I did the main part of the final mission where you're supposed to immediately leave because of what you do in that part, but had to actually go back and track down an item afterwards because it was another primary that I completely passed by. In short, you got more freedom and just overall more to do across all the different objectives, different types of weapon achievements, and all of the collectible notes that you can find off of certain bodies. The stealth mechanic has also gotten more in-depth than before. One thing to note about Sniper Elite 4 is that it's a very slow game on pacing for what you have to do. The franchise has always had stealth, and 3 increased that, but 4 puts it into overdrive with suppressor ammo you can get for the rifle and pistol, and just how much smarter the AI has been made with not only hearing what you do, but being able to lock onto your position and moving to you in a much smarter and more effective way with spotters, watching vapor trails, and getting support from recon boats and planes. Because of all this being increased and the sheer number of enemies that will be on you when seen, each mission will be a slow trek of sneaking and crouching around, throwing rocks to distract and melee kill enemies, and setting up shots to not have half a dozen guards all shooting you with machine guns at the same time. There's a reason most of the missions took me around an hour each to complete, and from what I've heard, Sniper Elite 5 continues that trend. Now with Gunplay, things are pretty nice, but it's more on options that have enhanced it. The rifle and pistol feel pretty much the same as before, but now you've got suppressor ammo and normal ammo, and most of the items have multiple functions. TNT charges, for example, has a variant that is just set or thrown, having you shoot it to make it explode, or a timer-based one so you can chuck it at a vehicle, run for your life, and it will do the work for you. But one thing that hasn't changed is the series' charm, bullet cam kills. It's always thrilling to see your bullet flying through the air and breaking apart the insides of a Nazi's body. And they made it even more detailed in the gore. When you do close melee kills or the sniping cinematic ones, you see a lot more on the bones and organs, be it leg bones breaking apart or a bullet causing an enemy's heart to constrict and rip itself in half. Now there's a lot to enjoy here, but the checkpoint system this game uses, I have an issue with. You can do manual saves at any time, and you do get autosaves very often, which is great. But when it decides to autosave can cause issues. Many times throughout the game I would get caught and die in a firefight. Then I'd respawn at the last checkpoint and see the game saved right after I got spotted. Seeing that cover blown thing come up as soon as the game loads, making you repeat the same intense firefight without any stealth over and over until you can either find a hiding spot and wait for them to leave or survive. But really, that's my only major nitpick, though content in length is a bit less than what you may expect. The main campaign has 8 missions, and I got to the end of it after playing for about 7.5 hours. That's a bit longer than V2, but over 2 hours shorter than 3 and 5. I did like how the story ended, and there are a few DLC story missions that you can buy to extend the campaign further. But it's worth noting that it's one of the shorter campaigns of the series. Now for presentation. I feel like Rebellion is one of those developers that just tinkered with the Switch's development tools and found the magic button. Visually, this game looks great and detailed. There is some very small blurring when you really look close on stuff like signs on the walls, but it really looks good both in docked and handheld mode, all the way down to how it uses shadows from trees. Performance is good as well. A solid 30 FPS from start to finish with little to no drops. It's the amount of impressive that I've really just come to expect from a Rebellion Switch game. That's all I gotta say for that, so let's go into battery life. Sniper Elite 4 gives the original model a battery range of 3 hours and 19 up to 3 hours and 53. The Nintendo Switch Lite gets a range of 3 hours and 36 up to 4 hours and 11. The Redbox or V2 2019 model gets a range of 4 hours and 55 up to 5 hours and 40. And the OLED model gets a range of 5 hours and 16 up to 6 hours and 22. Now in conclusion, Sniper Elite 4's intense stealth shooting is ported well onto the Switch. On the downside, I'm not a fan of the checkpoint system, and it isn't quite as long as 3 or 5 without the DLC. But mechanically speaking, it's the best sniper game on the Switch and brings a lot of hope for more Rebellion conversions in the years to come. Reviews to Go rates Sniper Elite 4 for the Nintendo Switch an 8 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.